Today's agenda, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the redesign of the work order screen. And again, this is a recently released item back last Monday on August 17th. With this release, there was also a new company setting that was added for you that allows you to decide how you want the line item detail view to populate on the screen. Now, these are two separate items that we've changed. There is a completely redesign of the work order screen, and then a new setting within the company settings that allows you to dictate how the work order line item detail views. We'll also review some enhancements that are in the works for the work order screen, and then we'll tackle any questions on the back end. Now, our new redesigned work order screen has been condensed and consolidated to take advantage of more of the white space on the work order screen traditionally. You'll notice that when looking at the work order screen, and we're going to see a snippet of that here at the bottom, we're going to see at the top here, we would traditionally see our buttons. So I've got an old screenshot of the old work order view and our new one down here on the side. We've consolidated all of the buttons coming across the top here. We no longer have individual buttons for items, but we've consolidated them into drop-down menus, allowing you to pick those same actions. Now, in our next screenshot, we're going to see another sequence of buttons would be our action buttons, or the buttons that we use to manipulate our line item details. And those buttons have remained the same, and they have the same functionality, although they look slightly different. At the bottom of the work order screen, we would traditionally see the work order financials. That area of the screen has not been changed, and there's been no change to functionality. To give you an idea of what the new redesigned work order screen looks like here, I've got a job pulled up for this work order here. At the cross of the top here, we're seeing our new menu items in a drop-down fashion. All the navigation buttons, again, have been condensed into these drop-down menus, and we're going to see the same items that we would traditionally have seen in buttons now appearing in the drop-down menu. Now, we do have the ability to create a new work order by clicking on the Create item. We can edit, which would traditionally house our delete, merge, transfer, duplicate, change gross margin, and split material. We have our Convert button that would allow our web application users to convert to a voucher or invoice, close a work order, or reopen a work order. Now, the Convert menu may look a little bit different for our proven desktop accounting clients, as creating an invoice or voucher is completed in the desktop application. Or if you are a proven job management web client, some of these items in the drop-down menu may not be visible, as they are controlled by the role security assigned to the user. So if you're not seeing certain items, please get with your PSA web administrator, and they can review the security that you've been assigned. Moving on with our drop-down menus, we have our schedule. We'll be able to go right into the schedule screen and schedule an appointment for one of our work orders, or we can navigate into the advanced schedule. Under print, we have the ability to print the work order, and this replaces our print button previously. We have print estimate that allows you to print a copy of the work order in an estimate fashion. And then we have the create attachment, again, which would create a PDF copy and place it as on the job under the attachments tab. Now, an area that's been causing some confusion is the area here towards the middle center of the screen. The buttons don't appear to look like buttons, and then that's been a little bit of an issue for users transferring from the old design to the redesign. These buttons are active and operate and function the same way that they traditionally do. They're just not very obvious on the screen here. We have gotten some feedback on that, and we do intend on changing this so it has the traditional look and feel of a button, so it's more apparent on what we need to do and use when we're manipulating those line item details. But again, there's been no change to functionality. We still have the ability to save our changes. We have the ability to add line item details. We have the ability to remove a line item, transfer line items to a different work order, and we have the ability to use the subtrade agreed quote. Now going further into, we've got a full view of the new redesign. And this is traditionally our default setting. This is a drill down details view. And this is how we would traditionally see our line item detail even before the redesign. At the top here, again, this is part of the redesign. We're no longer seeing the bulky menu over on the left-hand side of the screen with all the buttons. It's been streamlined with our drop-down menus for navigation. And then below that, we're seeing the list of our individual work orders. Again, like we previously did before, we would always click on the work order to see the work order detail. And when we click on the line item here, it now loads the work order detail below. Now, when you click on the line item or the work order itself, it turns it blue like it traditionally did before. And now we're seeing, instead of in a vertical, we're now seeing our data in a horizontal fashion. We're able to view the work order number, the category code assigned to that particular work order. If this particular work order has been scheduled, we're going to see the start and end time. If this work order has been invoiced or vouchered, we will see those numbers populate here. Now, another nice thing too that's added to this feature is that traditionally before, in the old view, you couldn't tell if a work order was closed. You always had to click on the work order to see visually if it was closed or not. So you had to do another click to get into that area. With the new redesign, if the work order is closed, it will say closed in either the invoice or vouchered area. So at a glance, you'll be able to tell, is this an open work order? Is this a closed work order? And when we go into the live database, I'll show you how that looks. Now over here, we have the ability to add a subtrade. Currently, I have a subtrade assigned to this particular work order. And when we get into the live database, I'll show you how we assign the subtrade. We're also seeing our attendees. So if we do have a scheduled appointment, we're seeing the attendees that are assigned. Now we will have to drill down into the attendees field to see any additional attendees. You'll see that it's abbreviated here, just so we don't blow out the line item by listing all the attendees and making it bigger than it needs to be. You do need to drill into that line item to see all of the detail or all of the attendees that have been assigned. And then in our final column, we're seeing our notes. Again, you'll be able to click to open the note area and add your note. And if your note is longer than what the column allows, you'll be able to click in and view the full note. Now, traditionally, like most of our menus and screens within Proven Job Management, we have headers above each column, and these headers are searchable. So if we type in information into these headers, it will then sort and filter the work orders below. Again, traditionally, like we'd see in most of our columns, we have the ability to sort and filter within the column header, allowing us to click the arrows to sort. And we have that option available on the number, category, start, and end. Now again, getting back to saying this is our default setting. So previous to the redesign, when we looked at our work orders, we were seeing the line items display in this fashion. And in order for us to go in and edit an existing line item, we'd have to click on it and it opens up the line item detail. And again, the work order financial detail at the very bottom of the screen has not changed, and there's no change to functionality. We're still seeing our individual work order on the right versus our total work orders on the left. Again, this is our default setting. Again, reiterating that you have to physically click into the line item to add or edit the line item detail. Now, what we've done in this release, it includes a new company setting. And this company setting allows the company to decide how they want to view their line item details. In this particular view, I have enabled the new company setting. It's called Inline Details View. And those of you that are familiar with the desktop accounting application, you'll notice that it has a similar feel to how we would use the work orders in that desktop application. Now, a big difference between our traditional default layout and the new setting that's available is that we don't have to click into the line item. We can do all of our edits just as it appears on the screen. You'll also notice that we can see the note from this view as well. So again, both views have the same functionality, they just have a different view. Now, to access these new company settings, this will need to be done by a web administrator. These settings are available from the main menu: Settings, Company Settings, Jobs. Select the Work Order tab. So we're navigating here in the Company Settings, Jobs, Work Order. And you'll see a new option appear for you. It's called Use Inline Details View. When that box is checked, the detail will display in full without having to drill down on the line item itself, displaying just like it would in our desktop, proven desktop application. Unchecked, we'll leave it how it was traditionally before the redesign of the work order screen. You would still have to click into the field, or the line item, I should say, to make any edits. Now again, we've had quite a bit of feedback on the redesign. There's been some confusion. That's kind of the whole point of today's session, is to kind of walk through what the new release actually consisted of. It was really two pieces: the actual overall redesign of the work order screen, and then the company's ability to decide how they want those line item details to populate. And that is a master company setting, so it's not a user setting, so we'd have to pick one version or the other. It's not capable of running both, and it's not user specific, so it is a company setting. Now, some of the feedback that we've received, we've already addressed. There were some issues with the attendees fields opening up all the way so we'd see all the attendees, so it wouldn't allow us to see as many work orders as we'd like. We had some issues with the notes field. Those items have been corrected. One of the items that we still need to correct is the confusion in regards to the buttons. Some of the items don't look like buttons. They've been causing issues. People can't find the buttons that they would traditionally use. So our goal is to kind of go back to the same look and feel that we traditionally used on the old design, giving color to the buttons, giving definition to the buttons, so it'll give a better user experience. Now, we do welcome any feedback on the work order screen, or if there's any functionality issues, please let our support team know by contacting our support department. We are pushing those releases through as soon as they are done, so there will be the slightest delay in getting those items fixed. Now, for the rest of the presentation, I am going to switch over to one of my demo databases. And I've logged into my trainer's demo database. I'm already in a job that I've created, and I'm in the work order screen. Now again, when we're in the work order screen, we're still going to see the blue link in the upper right-hand corner to indicate what job we're currently in. Again, our buttons that we would traditionally see have been replaced with drop-down menus. We have the ability to create a new work order. We have the ability to then work with the work orders that we have on our screen. We can check a checkbox on the work order and then select one of our drop-down menu items here. And again, these are all the traditional items that we would have seen as buttons before. So we have the ability to delete a work order, merge work orders together, transfer or duplicate work orders, change the gross margin for all of the work orders on this particular job, and split material, splitting that labor from the material, creating two separate work orders. Again, our convert button, again, just clicking on the arrow to drop and populate the menu. Again, we have the ability to convert to a voucher and invoice for our web clients, close a work order, and reopen a work order. On our schedule drop-down menu, we have the ability to go into the schedule. So we'd select our work order, hit our calendar view, and it would take us into our schedule that we would traditionally see, allowing us to schedule that particular item. So again, if I just go in, it takes me into the schedule as it traditionally would, and allowing me to create that scheduled event. Going back into my work orders here, we've added a menu called print. This now houses our buttons that we had for print estimate, and create attachment. Again, print would allow us to print the work order. It takes us into our report viewer like it traditionally did before, so we can see those details. So again, if I click on the work order, hit my print button, it takes me into a report viewer. No different than before, allows me to select my preview parameters, submit, and see a copy of that work order. Now we also have the ability to print an estimate. So if we were handing this out to a customer client, it would then take us into the same report viewer, but it would allow us to see the price for an estimate, opposed to handing out a work order to maybe a sub-trade or internal staff member. And finally, we have our create attachment. And again, this feature would create a PDF copy of the work order and add it as an attachment on the job, which would then allow us to email that work order out. Now, general navigation of the actual work order details themselves. You'll see, as like before, if you click on a work order, it opens up the work order detail below. The blue line would indicate that's the active work order that we're currently working on. So we have visual cues with the blue, and we also have a visual cue down here. It identifies the work order that we're seeing below. Now, when we click on the work order, it's one click to highlight it blue, and then to edit some of these items here. Like traditionally, you were able to go in and assign a sub-trade. We had a separate box for that. You were able to see the attendees over here on the left-hand side. You were able to populate a note that was in the upper right-hand corner. So everything's been kind of moved together in a streamlined view, allowing you to navigate by simply clicking on the items. So as before, you can't modify the start and end time. Those are all dictated by how we schedule in the scheduling screen. Again, the category code is dictated by the first category that we have on the line item for the work order, so that's not editable from this area. You do have the ability to edit the work order like you traditionally did. You can go in and make your manipulations to the work order. Once you've made your changes, hit your save button. And again, I'm simply clicking into the fields. Now, if I don't have the work order already selected, you need to click on the work order to let it load the work order, then click into the screen. And on this particular one, you can see that I mentioned before, which is nice, is that we can see that this work order is closed. And when I click on the work order number, the system's telling me I cannot update the work order because it's closed. And that's the same as it was before. You never had the ability to update a closed work order. We would have to reopen, make those manipulations, and reclose if necessary. But what's really nice about this new feature is that we can see that this work order is physically closed. We don't have to drill down into the work order to see that work order detail saying that it was closed. Again, we're also seeing the voucher information. If it's invoiced or vouchered, we'll see that corresponding number to that particular transaction. Our sub-trade, again, we traditionally had a box that you would scroll through and select your sub-trade. Now, once the work order is selected, you simply click on the column there, and we're going to select our sub-trade. So again, I'm simply clicking into the box. I can remove HazMaster. Well, since this one's closed, I technically can't, but we can make those manipulations. Now, on this particular one, we're only seeing that Harry Wilson is an attendee, and we're seeing the ellipses here, the 3 dots. If we click on the attendees here, I'm just clicking on Harry's name, it does pop and open up another box, and this shows me all of the attendees. Now, again, this is traditionally wasn't an area that we could edit before, and we still can't edit it now, but we can view who's been assigned to this particular work order as an attendee on that appointment. For our notes field, again, simply click into the notes field. We're going to be presented with the note box that we can make our changes. So I'm just going to switch my work orders because that one's closed, just to show you that we can make edits to our open work orders. Again, when we add our notes, we want to make sure that we hit our save button so it captures our new note detail. So again, very straightforward. Make sure that we select our work order, and then we simply click into the fields that we want to make edits or add to. Now, once we have the work order open, like we do here below, I've got a work order 0170. the blue bar indicating that that's the work order that I'm currently viewing. Like before, we're traditionally seeing those line item details. You'll notice that we're getting more real estate though. If you recall, we had this big bulky menu here that took up 25% of the screen. So we're capturing more real estate here. We've got, it's much cleaner, taking advantage more of the real estate here that we have on the screen. Again, this is the traditional default view, so you'd have to click on the line item description. I'm sorry there, my screen just froze up there for a moment. Again, to collapse it or make changes, you'd make your changes and then you would hit your save button. So these are the buttons that most of our users are having problems with. They're having difficulties finding them because they don't necessarily look like buttons. So again, we are improving that look and feel, returning them to the traditional button look. So they'll be more standing out to you, more obvious that we need to click these buttons when we're making these changes. So again, we can save our changes. We can add additional line items. Here it populated a line, and traditionally we click into the description line to open and add our line item detail. We have the ability to remove our line items by clicking our remove button. Transfer and subtrade agreed quote. So we do have the ability to make these manipulations like we traditionally did. Again, just clicking on the button, I can do my subtrade agreed quote. And the system will make the manipulation for me. So again, when we're working with the line item details of the work order itself, we want to make sure that we're using our buttons here towards the middle of the screen. And as I explained before, this is the traditional or default layout before the redesign. A new feature that we've added to the company settings is to take it back to the look and feel that our desktop clients are accustomed to and what we're calling our inline detail view. Now I'm going to flip over to that view to show you what that looks like. So we're going to go again, and this needs to be done by an administrator or a user that has access to the company settings menu. We're going to go to the company settings menu from the main menu. We're going to go down to company settings. We're going to go to our jobs. We're going to select our work order tab, and you're going to see this item right here. Now, if you want to move to the new version, you would simply check the box. So everyone should have been defaulted to be unchecked. So it would be the traditional line item detail that we're accustomed to in proven job management. If we want to move over to that new look that looks very familiar to our desktop clients, we can go ahead and apply the checkbox, hit save. And when we go back to our work order screen, we're going to see that the line item detail view is different. I'm going to go ahead and get into one of my work orders here that's got a little bit more detail. And again, with this particular view, you don't need to open or drill down into the line item detail. You can simply make your manipulations just by clicking on the items that we want to manipulate. Now you'll notice as I click on different fields, we're getting a highlight here. There's a lot of information here. It can be a little busy to someone that hasn't utilized it before, but we're packing everything into a small item. So we're seeing all of that on the screen here. So again, as I click on this, we can see my category, the physical line item itself, the description, the hours, the activity. So again, this is an import from Xactimate, so we're seeing those activities come over from Xactimate. So this is a replace line, but you do have the ability to make your manipulations. We're seeing our unit, and we're seeing our quantity. Now you do have the ability to come in here and make your edits. Just by simply clicking into the boxes. And traditionally what we would have seen in the 3 boxes below stacked on each other. We're seeing it more in a horizontal. So we're going from a vertical view to a horizontal view where we can add our material, we can add our labor, and we can add our expense, and we're seeing our total price. So it's just a change in view. Then we're seeing our margins. And again, the buttons work like they traditionally do. We have the ability to add another line item. We have the ability to save, to remove, and again, we're still using those checkboxes to use these buttons if necessary. Now, one of the things I didn't show earlier about the top of the screen here too, again, you do have the ability to filter and sort. So if we're looking for a specific work order number, we can have the system filter down. If we're looking for work orders by a specific category code, let's say I just want to see the paint work orders, the system's going to allow us to filter. If we're looking for a specific start date, invoice, voucher, so just know that above each of these columns, there are searchable fields. We also have those buttons that allow us to sort. So we're seeing that in chronological order or reverse where we have the larger on top. Now, if you do, we only do have not a small space of real estate here, but you do have your scroll bar here to show you all your additional work orders on the screen if we need to, if it's a larger estimate. Same thing with our line items on our larger ones. We'll have the scroll bar allowing us to view those additional line items. And again, no change to the financials below. That does conclude our session today on reviewing the basic navigation and feel of the new redesigned work order screen and the new feature in the company settings allowing you to choose how you want your work order line item detail to display. If you have any questions at this time, feel free to put them into the chat box and I will go through them now. And again, if you think of anything after the fact, feel free to reach out to our support department. They will attempt to answer your questions. If you need, if it needs a trainer, it'll be assigned out to a trainer. Or if you're looking for training on the work orders, if you're new to proven job management and you're looking for just basic training on how to create work orders and navigation, please get with our support department and we can provide training to you. So the first question that we have, is there an option to email the work order? Is there an option to email the work order if I email it directly to trade partner? Can it auto create a log note that the work order was emailed so I have a timestamp? So long answer short is that you can email a work order, but you do have to create it as an attachment and you do have to navigate to the job to send it out as a note. And traditionally I would recommend that, or I would recommend that because we want to make sure that all of our correspondences are being done at the job level. So in that case, I would choose my work order, and I'm just going to choose any one of them here. Let's see. I'm going to print, create attachment. When we're in the report view, you have the ability to say what you want it to show and not show. I'm going to go ahead and hit my attachment. It's going to give me a banner letting me know that the attachment was successfully attached. I'm going to hit my quick link here in the upper left or right hand corner. It's going to take me into the job. Under my attachment screen, I'm going to go ahead and see the work order that's just been created. Again, I don't necessarily need to go into the attachments. If I do that action, I know it's going to be there. I can create a note and assign that work order by hitting my attach button and selecting my work order. Typing out my note, my subject, making sure that I pick the most applicable topic, and adding my email recipient. That way that if our subtrade or subcontractor responds back to us, that will be captured here on the note. So we'll see a history of the job itself and all of the activity. So again, I do recommend navigating back to creating that attachment, navigating back to the Notes tab and attaching that attachment. That way too, you have your timestamp of when you know it went out. You can always drill down into the note as always to see what was attached if we're not seeing all of the detail here. And again, when that subtrade responds, their response will be added as a job note on the job. We're going to go down. Is the convert work order into a voucher available to desktop users or only for the QuickBooks users? At this time, it's only the convert feature is only a function for the web users. It's not a function available to our desktop clients. I'm not sure if it's something that we're still entertaining because our master goal is to launch our web accounting. So I'd have to double check to see if that's something that we're considering. I know it was bounced around before, but I'm not sure that that's going to happen with us moving towards the web accounting. It says, is the invoice the same as the PO? Traditionally, a work order and PO can be used synonymously for each other. Typically, when you convert a PO or a work order, it would then become your invoice, and it's no longer an editable item. So depending upon the terminology used within your company, PO and work order are used pretty much interchangeably. And when we convert those items, we convert them into an invoice or a voucher. That's when they become an actual hard cost on the job. Remembering that anything on our work order screen is our estimate. It's our estimated revenue. When we do any of the convert features, it's making it an actual cost. So then it becomes that invoice, it becomes that bill. Now there's two ways, getting a little further into depth of this here to capture an actual cost. When you're a web client like this, when you do that convert, it creates the actual cost. But then when you create an invoice or a bill or voucher in your QuickBooks and that item syncs over into Proven Job Management, we see that in your job financials as an actual cost. So as a company, you would need to decide where your action is going to be from. Are we going to convert from Proven Job Management, or are we going to continue to use QuickBooks to produce those invoices, those vouchers, those bills? Let's see, we're going to go down here a little bit more. Did you show how to add a subtrade to the assigned vendor? I'm going to assume that you meant assigned to the work order, but yes, previously we just simply click into the line item itself. Once the line item or the work order is selected, we click into the subtrade field here. So I'm just going to click on we do painting, or if it's not assigned yet, we click into the empty space. It pops a box allowing us to select our subtrade vendor and assign it to that particular work order, and then it'll populate in the field. It was mentioned at one time that the work order tab would appear within the jobs tab themselves, similar to the dates and the relationships and notes and etc. Is that still in the works, or do we need to hover over jobs and then select work orders? That's another item that was previously discussed. I'm not sure if it's still in development or where it's in development. I know the overall goal was trying to pull some of these items that you had to navigate to into jobs, like the work orders on the actual job tab. I know there's a lot that goes into having that done. I just don't think it's, I'm not exactly sure where it is in our development queue, so I'd have to double check to see if and when that's something that we're still moving towards. Another question, are the voucher numbers going to be the same as the desktop? Yes. So the numbers that your desktop accounting or proven desktop accounting is generated, those are the numbers that you will see in the invoice and vouchered columns. Now for our web clients, if you're converting bills and vouchers and invoices from the work order screen here in Proven Job Management, it will pick up Proven Job Management's numbering system. If you are entering your vouchers and invoices and bills and QuickBooks and that information is syncing to Proven Job Management financials, it's going to pick up the work order coming, or the number or the transaction number coming out of QuickBooks. So again, it all boils down to the source. So if it's coming from desktop, it's a desktop number. If it's coming from the Proven Job Management, it's the Proven Job Management number. If it's coming from QuickBooks, it's the QuickBooks number. That way you have full transparency. So when you go from one system to the next, everything should line up. Let's see here. So we're just going through this edit here. Do you have the ability to have saved margin percent for specific trades? Example, is there a way to have Paint Train to always come up with a 30% margin? Unfortunately, not at this time. Your margin traditionally always has to be dictated either on the work order itself in its entirety, or you can manipulate the margin on the individual line items. Right now, when we create a job, when we create a new work order, the margin that it defaults to is what we have set up on our job types in the company settings. And that's as far as the defaults go. They don't go into a specific trade or category code for that matter. It's something definitely that we can discuss with development if there's a high demand for it, but that feature does not exist at this time. Let's go into our next question. It says, when 2 employees are assigned to a work order, when 1 employee clocks into the work order, does it clock the other employee into? It depends on when you go to, this is kind of deviating from our session today. But when we schedule an appointment and we add our attendees, the attendees that has the star would be considered the lead technician or the lead attendee. And that lead attendee has the ability to clock others in via the mobile app. If you need instructions on that, we do have a manual. If you need a training session, Melody, please reach out to our support team and we can demo that for you. It's not something I typically recommend. I recommend that all users have their own user login so they can clock themselves in, add notes, add photos. But I know there are some situations maybe we don't want all users to have access to the system, but there is a way to clock in more than 1 employee, but it does need to be set up properly in order to do so. Let's see, when merging multiple work orders, is there a way to select the work order you want to keep? For me, it's defaulting to the lowest number work order. Currently at that time, you do not have the ability to select which work order. Everything is merging into, like you've noticed, it defaults to the lowest number and puts everything up into that work order as a package deal. In those cases, I know a lot of times that the category code is defined by the first line item that we're seeing in the work order. In those instances, I've recommended to clients to then modify the work order number to give it a strong back-end suffix to identify maybe what that work order is now portraying. It could be paint and drywall, just so we're giving some visual cues to what's physically going on with that particular work order. Another question, how soon will this presentation be available in Dropbox? It should be, I'd have to get with our sales manager, Ryan, on how soon this would be available. We do add them to Dropbox. I do believe it's also going to make its way to our help menu. For those of you that are familiar, our help library takes us into our Can-Am Sys website. We have the ability to, it's tucked down in here in the other section, but we do typically put some of our classes in here. I'm not sure if we do our lunches learns in here, but we will have those added to your company Dropboxes for view at a later date. Now, we have run out of time for our session today. There are quite a few questions in the chat box, so I will have to take those through and respond to you directly. Some of the questions are not really related to today's sessions. Today's session was an overview of the redesign, so some of the more specific questions you may want to reach out to the support department. Otherwise, I'll be reaching out to you with answers to some of these questions that are not necessarily related to today's training session. Again, if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to contact our support team via our phone number. When you're on the web application or proven job management, our phone number is in the bottom right-hand corner, along with our email to our support department. And again, thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.